I think a deal can be reached. Well, you have to get in position. We have plenty of time. If you remember Venezuela, we waited around for a while, and we're in no rush. I think we had the results today were with Iran. It was a meeting. We're going to meet again early next week.
The Iranian regime in Tehran is facing a major crisis, but not from Israeli and American warplanes, but internally.
They are looking at a potential Iranian regime collapse moment. This is no less historic than the fall of the Berlin Wall.
Satellite imagery captured on January 25th showed at least a dozen F-15E attack jets sitting fully armed on a Jordanian runway, 90 minutes flight time from Tehran. And simultaneously, the son of Iran's supreme leader was secretly wiring $328 million out of the country through shadow banking networks in Hong Kong and Singapore. The U.S. military has deployed dozens of aircraft to bases near Iran and assembled about 12 warships in or near the Middle East in the past month, according to U.S. defense officials, satellite imagery, and available tracking data setting the stage for possible U.S. strikes against the Iranian regime in coming weeks. Mojtaba Khamenei is moving money like a man who knows exactly what is about to happen to the country his father built. When the regime's own air is wiring hundreds of millions out of the country, the regime knows it's finished. Share this everywhere because what is happening inside Iran right now? F-15s on Jordanian runways, a carrier strike group 500 miles off the coast, regime elites emptying bank accounts, protesters in every province, is the most consequential collapse unfolding anywhere on Earth, and mainstream media is barely covering a fraction of it. Before we reveal exactly why Western intelligence sources now say the question is no longer whether America strikes Iran, but when, subscribe to States Brief Network for intelligence-level analysis nobody else will provide. Decision-making circles in the United States and Israel have moved past diplomacy, with Iran viewing military action as effectively decided with only the timing still under debate, according to a Western source familiar with coordination talks. The key question in current meetings is no longer whether an attack will take place, but when an appropriate operational and political window will emerge. No longer whether, when. That is the single most important sentence in Middle East geopolitics right now. Think about what that means for Khamenei's survival calculus. An 86-year-old supreme leader presiding over a country where every province is in active protest, where the rial has lost 90% of its value since 2018, where his own son is moving hundreds of millions overseas, and American F-15Es are parked on a Jordanian runway 2 hours away. For President Trump, eliminating Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei after capturing Maduro would further burnish his tough guy image. Khamenei is the regime's linchpin, and removing him, whether through a diplomatic deal or military strike, could pave the way for an agreement with his successors. Not reforming Iran, removing the linchpin. That is the language American military planners are using right now. Here's where the Treasury intelligence exposes how deep the regime's private panic runs. U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent revealed his department had tracked the wiring of tens of millions of dollars out of Iran by leaders, saying we are now seeing the rats fleeing the ship because we can see millions, tens of millions of dollars being wired out of the country, snuck out of the country by the Iranian leadership. Rats fleeing the ship. That is the Treasury Secretary of the United States, on camera, about a foreign government's senior officials. Dictatorships don't do this unless they believe the end is near. Mojtaba Khamenei, the son of Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei, allegedly transferred roughly $328 million overseas as part of an estimated $1.5 billion shift in recent days, with Iranian figures moving large sums through shadow banking systems embedded in the United Arab Emirates, Hong Kong, and Singapore. $328 million, moved by one man, in days. He has access to the same intelligence his father receives, and what it tells him about American military planning is making him convert Iranian assets into portable wealth before the bombs fall. What nobody is saying loudly enough is that elites moving money is the most reliable predictor of regime collapse that exists. When the people closest to power stop believing the system will survive long enough to keep rewarding them, they exit. The Islamic Republic is dying. It may suppress this round of protests, and the leadership may survive this year, but it will not emerge from 2026 with its authority, cohesion, or capacity preserved. That is the Hudson Institute, not a protest chant, a formal strategic assessment. The Islamic Republic is dying. Here's where the crackdown numbers reveal why military defections are becoming the regime's greatest fear. The government deployed machine guns, tanks, drones, snipers, and checkpoints in Iranian cities, with soldiers raiding houses, searching door to door to arrest protesters. One Iranian soldier was sentenced to death for refusing to obey the order to shoot civilians. One soldier executed for refusing to massacre his own people. The regime didn't just punish disobedience, it made an example. That means other soldiers were making the same calculation. And executions don't stop that, they accelerate it. Activists say Iran's crackdown has killed at least 6,159 people. The Iranian government increased security spending by nearly 150%, while offering wage increases amounting to only about 2/5 of the rate of inflation. Protests were held in all 31 of Iran's provinces, including areas considered typically loyal to the state. All 31 provinces, including the loyal ones. The regime is shooting people in places it has never had to shoot people before. That is not strength. That is the final desperate measure of a system running out of options. Think about what the military positioning tells you about how far American planning has actually progressed. The USS Abraham Lincoln Carrier Strike Group deployed from the South China Sea to the Middle East, escorted by multiple destroyers and carrying nearly 90 aircraft, including F-35s, giving Washington a flexible range of options from limited strikes on Revolutionary Guard assets to broader operations. Additional U.S. combat aircraft, armored units, and air defense systems have been repositioned across regional bases. This is not deterrence posture. Deterrence posture signals presence. This is pre-strike positioning, assets placed where they need to be to execute the mission on short notice. Then came the warning that exposes how close this is to the edge. One scenario under discussion involves waiting for a spark to trigger the next phase, such as Iran attempting to fire a first missile toward Israel, which could then be used as justification. The source said if Israel becomes directly involved, the scale of the operation would expand, and in that case, the 12-day war would appear very small compared with the plans currently on the table. Waiting for a spark. A regime that is cornered and desperate is exactly the kind of regime that provides one, accidentally or otherwise. Here's where Iran's own counter-moves expose the impossible position it's in. On February 5th, Iran deployed its Khorramshahr-4 long-range missile in an underground missile facility, signaling a shift in military doctrine from defensive to offensive. Satellite imagery showed Iran accelerating repairs at missile sites while making limited repairs at nuclear facilities, indicating a focus on missile infrastructure over nuclear reconstitution, missiles over nuclear facilities. After June 2025 destroyed Fordo, Natanz, and Isfahan, the regime chose to rebuild what can threaten American bases in hours, not what takes years to rebuild. Because missiles are the only deterrent they have left. The Iranian regime is conducting a concerted campaign involving diplomatic, informational, and military lines of effort to try to prevent U.S. military action. Gulf states warned the United States that Iran retains short-range ballistic missiles that it could use to strike U.S. interests in the Persian Gulf. Iran previously struck U.S. interests in January 2020 at Ain al-Assad Air Base in Iraq and in June 2025 at Al Udeid Air Base in Qatar. Iran already played that card in June 2025. Struck a U.S. base in Qatar, got bombed harder in return. The deterrence failed, and now the same missiles are pointing at the same bases again. Consider what happens to every American ally in the region if shooting starts. Qatar, Saudi Arabia, Oman, and Egypt urged the United States not to attack Iran because they were concerned that Iran could retaliate by striking their territory. 4 Gulf states privately pleading with Washington not to strike, while simultaneously acknowledging that not striking will embolden a regime that could survive long enough to rebuild its nuclear program. There is no safe outcome. Every government in the region knows it. But here's what the American military buildup makes clear. Washington is not building this force for deterrence. Trump described U.S. naval forces in the region as an armada. U.S. Central Command prepared military options for Trump presented in recent days now being refined. Military plans don't get refined unless execution is imminent, according to former officials familiar with the planning process. Refined, not prepared. Refined means the decision framework exists, and the details are being sharpened. Armorers don't sharpen bayonets for parades. Trump said Iran should negotiate a satisfactory deal to prevent it from getting nuclear weapons. I don't know that they will, but they are talking to us, seriously talking to us. Simultaneously, he described the military as an armada and said if we can't work something out, probably bad things would happen. Seriously talking to us, and probably bad things would happen. Trump is holding both doors open simultaneously. The regime is trying to walk through the negotiation door while America's hand is already on the strike door handle. Think about the internal command crisis that exposes why the regime's military cannot function normally under this pressure. Khamenei ordered the activation of communication channels with the United States between Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi and Steve Witkoff, even as IRGC commanders simultaneously threatened a harsh response if Iran is attacked. The Supreme National Security Council made major changes to the chain of command, citing the goal of strengthening war deterrence. Khamenei ordered dialogue with the same administration his commanders are threatening to destroy. The regime cannot hold both positions simultaneously. That contradiction is the sound of a command structure that has lost coherence under pressure. No matter what happens, there is no scenario in which the Islamic Republic survives 2026 with its power intact. It enters 2026 weaker than at any time since its founding, and if it manages to last out the year, it will be even weaker still. No scenario. The trajectory is locked. The only question is which of the three collapse scenarios, controlled managed transition, military coup, or American strike triggering simultaneous internal uprising, arrives first. One thing is absolutely certain. American F-15Es are on a Jordanian runway 90 minutes from Tehran. The USS Abraham Lincoln with 90 aircraft is 500 miles off Iran's coast. The regime's elites are wiring hundreds of millions of dollars out of the country. Every province is in revolt, and the window between where things stand right now and full military confrontation is closing faster than at any point since the Islamic Republic was founded in 1979. Stay tuned.